Beginning our Wednesday morning with a lot going on, both locally and beyond. Good morning, by the way. Good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning up into Maine. Our AM and FM signal now up into near Portland, Maine, or thereabouts, or maybe beyond. And good morning up the seacoast of New Hampshire, up into the Lakes region, Manchester, Concord. We have you covered. Good morning worldwide. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Our poll question available on X. And all you got to do is the Pulse of an H. We asked simply this morning, we ask you, are you worried about inflation not coming down? Yes or no? Are you worried about inflation not coming down? Yes or no? I guess it just hit the 3% mark, highest since June, and that's up. And we'll tell you the results from yesterday in a moment because we have a newsmaker out of the gate, an important newsmaker who's busy. And also, we do have some snow on the way tonight. It is February. We have some more snow coming in. We'll tell you about that for the early morning, and we'll hear tomorrow live during the show from our friends in the New Hampshire State Police, brought to you by AutoFair. New Hampshire Governor Kelly Ayotte out of the gate live. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse Vintage. Good morning, Governor. Doing okay, thanks. Trying to keep track of everything. I seem to do a better job here at home locally in the region, but it's just Washington has me jumping these days. Governor, let's start and talk a little bit. There's a lot going on, and you've focused. One of the areas you're focusing on is trying to look at public safety. And we don't, with all the stuff happening in Washington, the Trump Elon Musk efficiency cuts train is continuing to steamroll. And despite some in Washington and Democrats who don't like it, but here you're doing a lot on public safety. One of the areas we don't talk about is bail reform. Can you talk about some of this? Sure. Why? Yeah. Hmm. Mm. Governor Kelly, yeah. What's it? So it's in the House, and then it would have to go to the Senate, and then to your desk. Okay. Hmm. Right. Speaking of public safety, I think you met with the mayor of Lawrence, Massachusetts recently, talking about working more together on trying to stem or cut down on the flow of drugs coming into the local, New Hampshire and back and forth. Hmm. Well, it's interesting, and that's it's been an ongoing. It's been a long time, so that's great progress. Governor Ayotte, I don't want to switch gears. I mentioned President Trump and Elon Musk and their efficiency cuts train. I'll call it steamrolling, and we saw examples just in the last week or two of the USAID, the foreign aid group. Some of the money going to places like DEI programs in Serbia. An Anthony Fauci exhibit through HHS. Some of those contracts FEMA money to hotels in New York City. So yeah, yep. So as much as Senator Elizabeth Warren jumps up and down, you have your own efforts here. You announced in your inauguration with great business leaders, former Governor Craig Benson, Andy Cruz. Instead of Department of Government Efficiency, you call it COGE, COGE. When are we going to hear about? Are they finding waste here in New Hampshire? Yeah, right. Well, I think, it's interesting because I don't know what some of the leading Democrats are thinking. Government, the last time I remember anyone even doing this federally was the late Warren Rudman and Paul Songas, where that we have a 30, we, yeah, we have a $36 trillion debt. Before I let you go, Governor, thank you for your time on a Wednesday morning live. Good morning, Hampshire, the Pulse Age. Here's just one question. You served in the United States Senate. You know a little bit about the federal government. And you work with Senator Jeanne Shaheen, and Senator Shaheen is the top Democrat in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And speaking of the foreign aid, she called the Trump administration's decision to shut down USAID an ill-advised and costly move that will only cause further chaos. And she's railing against cutting, abolishing or laying off a bunch of people here. She's been railing against Elon Musk. Do you think she's right in terms of that foreign aid organization or not? And not a critic as much because I just look at this long term. People, once they get into other areas, Department of Education, every federal agency, Department of the Pentagon, you're a fierce supporter of our defense budget. Your husband's a great veteran. You're a great veteran. But when they show how much the Pentagon has been charged for a tool set, I mean, people like to see savings. And right, right. But do you think, I'm just saying, because Senator Shaheen's a leader in this and top member of our delegation, you think she should be partnering with Doge or continue to rail against it? Right. Yeah. Governor Kelly Ayotte live this morning on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining the show. We'll catch you soon. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Guess who else is coming up? Who maybe was listening to the governor? Excuse me, former New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu coming up on the Pulse of an Age. Interesting interview with Governor Ayotte just moments ago live on a bunch of subjects, including New Hampshire looking at waste and federal, not federal, but waste and more efficiency. And, it's just amazing that you think about it, what Governor Ayotte is doing in New Hampshire, should be a regular thing. It shouldn't be a novel but concept, but it is. We haven't, I think the last person, ironically, and he's working on this for her, is Craig Benson when he came in as governor. he was questioning how much the state was spending on technology. And he, of course, he had founded a technology giant in Cabletron. He was looking at, the cost of everything. And it's just amazing that in the federal government, I'm still, and coming up, and this is very interesting that we have back to back. I think, again, I'm very proud and grateful for being able to do my show and the way it's grown. But I don't know many shows that's are going to have Governor Kelly Ayotte live for 10 or 12 minutes on a bunch of subjects, followed by former New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu coming up live. And the reason why I reached out, or the governor Sununu's on, is I don't know if you saw it, but last night he shredded Anderson Cooper on CNN. I mean, it was like it's like when you put the paper in that machine. Talk about shredding. Anderson Cooper's railing against Elon Musk. There was another Democrat analyst on there railing against Musk and Trump in the Oval Office, talking about shredding federal spending and cutting and efficiencies. And he was trying to, typically goat Sununu into agreeing on something. And Sununu mentioned FEMA, the money that, they just found FEMA $59 million to New York City hotels to house migrants who broke into this country illegally. Is that what we should be doing with FEMA dollars that are supposed to be emergency management for Americans? And Anderson Cooper is getting really upset, and Sununu said, well, would you tell FEMA? FEMA's already fired the person in charge of that, and they let 4 people go for this hotel supplement spending. With then by the way, you wonder why they ran out of money in North Carolina with the Hurricane Helene aftermath, and Trump wasn't wrong, because they're spending all this money through FEMA and DHS in the last 4 years, and up until Musk catching it, and Trump on paying hotels to house migrants, paying the bill, $300, $400, $500 a night a room. Yeah, your dollars, my dollars. No one asked you, did they? And Elizabeth Warren says, no one has a right to question how Congress spends taxpayers' money. That's when the people they forget. I don't mean to get going here, but I'm going to. It is mind-boggling to me that the people, this is the problem. And I'm surprised at some of the national Democrats that they don't see this. So much like the last few years where parents were chastised and shut down by school boards when parents were asking basic questions about curriculum, woke, political correctness, boys playing girls sports, they were just shut down. And the problem is the school board and superintendents have to remember who they work for. They work for those parents, the taxpayers. Senator Elizabeth Warren and Democrats have to remember Americans do have a right to know if FEMA is spending American taxpayer dollars on hotels in New York City to house migrants who broke into this country. They have every right to know that. That's not what FEMA should be doing. And the money ran out in North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. They have every right to know that. You're darn right they have every right to know that. That's when the people in charge forget who they work for. And that's what's going on in Washington. When the parents or the people forget who the customers are, when the people like Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer, when they start forgetting who the paying customers are, the business of politics is in trouble. It's in big trouble. Let me just tell you right now, you may not like Elon Musk, and you may not like President Donald Trump. This steamrolling train of cutting and exposing federal waste is just getting going. It just left the station. I'm telling you, it just left the station. And judges can try and stop it, and Congress can try and stop it. But the American taxpayer, 8 out of 10 of them are clapping. It's like a standing ovation. And wait till they get going. Wait till they show in the Department of Defense how much the Pentagon is being ripped off and pays for basic things that you in the private sector would pay a fraction. Wait till people see it. Wait till they see it. And then hopefully they start to feel it. This thing is not going to stop. And if you want to stand up and rail against that, you're going to be on the losing side of history. I got news for you. You're going to be on the losing side of history, even if you can't stand it. When the people in charge forget who the customers are, and the American taxpayer and the consumers are the customers. Now, with that said, I'm just going to be fair here. President Trump and his administration, the Secretary of the Treasury, they all have to, everyone on that team has to be very cognizant of that inflation number hitting 3%. They need to drive prices down at the grocery store. Keep thinking about people's grocery bills and their electric bills and all the other bills they're paying. You must drive down this inflation. As much as you want to put tariffs on people, you must drive down the inflation. You can continue to cut. Our debt is $36 trillion. Musk, President Trump, keep going, keep steamrolling that waste. But you gotta lower prices. You have to lower prices. That's a big reason why you're in there. Some commentary. Maybe one of the main reasons other than the border. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse Vintage. Coming up, our own White House correspondent, John Decker, and former New Hampshire governor, live, Chris Sununu, on his, let's just say, putting Anderson Cooper in his place. And by the way, I didn't say, Anderson got so mad at Governor Sununu last night on his show. He said to the governor, stop being well, I don't want to say the word. It begins with D and ends with K. Might be someone's first name if the name is Richard. Stop being such a. All right, back on the Pulse of an H. Now, J Dog, I don't know if you have the poll question results, but our poll question today is: are you worried on X, the Pulse of an H? Are you worried that inflation is not coming down? I'm starting to get a little worried about it. I think the president needs to pay more attention to that. That's just me, J Dog. And that's the Elizabeth Warren category. All right. Hey, Google, hey, explain the Pulse of an H. Back in a moment. Welcome back. I had to chuckle with that last ad there with the voiceover, all these voiceovers. Matthew McConaughey, Mike Rowe sent me a little message. He said, Jack, you should talk to my voiceover coach and start doing these ads like, if you want your Wendy's bacon cheeseburger extra nice. Governor Sununu is now in the business of media. I'll tell you right now, former Governor Chris Sununu in New Hampshire joining us live after Kelly A. It was just on. I've heard messages from hosts and other media around the country. Did you see Governor Sununu just shred those CNN people when it comes to, defending cutting waste in the federal government? Governor Sununu, welcome back to the show. I hope you've been well. I don't think you strike me as a type that needs a grief counselor, but really, not many people. If you didn't see it, people check the clip. Rob Carson's talking about it this afternoon on his national show. He said, "Wow, Sununu just tore apart CNN." You know what I don't understand, Governor, and I want to start with that with Anderson Cooper. And I just had Kelly Ayotte, Governor Ayotte, well, talking about this because Senator Shaheen, Elizabeth Warren, they're railing against Elon Musk and Trump for this efficiency, the Doge cutting even the FEMA money to hotels for migrants. I'm like, do they understand that 8 out of 10 people that work for a living are applauding exposing this waste and making it more efficient? Why would you want to be on the wrong side of that? Yeah. Right. Right. Well, the foreign aid group, she said of the Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Shaheen, but the USAID or whatever you have you pronounce it, they, just basically catching and shutting them down for a lot of this stuff like DIA workforce training in Serbia. Um, she's vehemently against this and very upset about Musk and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, if you're even thinking about running for reelection, why would you not embrace cutting federal waste and making it the government more efficient? Or how about this one, Governor? How about this one? Something you might do. Senator Sheen, invite Musk to meet with you in your office and invite the media there and just talk with them and look like you're open minded to it and then point out things. But why? I just don't. Do you think she's running for reelection again? By the way. All right, Governor. And I think this Doge thing. I think they're just getting going. I mean, wait till they get into some of these other agencies or even the Pentagon. You imagine, I think the last time, Governor Sununu, that anyone even looked at this was the late Warren Rudman and Paul Tsongas with the Concord Coalition, where they had the 30, the debt clock ticking. Now we have $36 trillion in debt. Yeah. Oh, right, right, right. Former New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu doing some of the national media stuff, making some moves yesterday by standing up to some of the CNN hosts who are scratching their heads and blasting Trump and Musk for the efficiency. Governor, I want to ask you one question about the economy, something you were very on top of as governor, and that is, I applaud a lot of the stuff on the border, cracking down, especially the criminal elements of illegal migration. Also talking about some of the cutting the waste and the making it more efficient, but inflation numbers, I worry about grocery prices. And you can talk about tariffs all day long, and President Trump may be right about steel 25% and taking on and trying to balance trade with China. The problem I worry about is short term inflation. Am I right or wrong going to the midterms that President Trump and his team need to convince or show more people truthfully that their grocery bills and everyday prices are coming down? 'Cause that's a big reason why I think independent voters gave him the nod in the economy versus going up, going into the midterms. Is inflation and consumer prices something that President Trump and his team need to really be a little more cognizant of right now or not? Interesting. Yeah. Real quickly, Governor Sununu, it's more of a personal question. It's been a little bit of time now since the holidays and the end of the year. Governor Ayotte was just on the show, but after 8 years of being governor, when weekly, everyday life, what do you miss most? What don't you miss? How's the adjustment? I know things move on. You're the type that moves on very quickly, I imagine. But what do you miss most about the job of governor? Or maybe you don't. I think you need your own show. The analysis is great, but when your dad did was it Crossfire way back? What was the name of that show? Yeah, I think you need something like. Go ahead. And first guest is Anderson Cooper. All right, thanks, Governor. All right, former Governor Chris Sununu. Thank you very much. We're going to take a quick break and tell you some of the other news stocks. Some snow moving in tonight. Hey, it's February. It's New Hampshire. It's New England. It's Maine. Back on the Pulse of a Nation in a moment. Hey, I went to high school with that guy. Just hearing from a buddy. Hey, good morning. Welcome back. Welcome back. J Dog on the boards. So we do have some snow coming in now. I just gonna say it's really not till later tonight. So if you have plans this afternoon, this evening, you're fine. It really doesn't get going till tonight, overnight into the early morning. Could be a little slick out there. Slippery, you never know. We know snow. It is February. Hey, we're having a real New England winter this winter, it seems like. Skiing, I'll tell you right now, I know it may not have been great during the holidays, the vacation weeks, but skiing is terrific. Skiing and riding and boarding, even snowmobiling. I've been seeing a lot of the fields and even the central areas when you're on like on Route 4, you'll see the snowmobile tracks on open, like big farm, tracks of land, people enjoying the trails. So it's good stuff. That's what it's supposed to be as people are enjoying the west coast of Florida this morning. 80 degrees for a high today. Not bad. Not bad at all. Hey, wherever you are, thank you very much for joining us and the Pulse of an H. And I do want to take a moment because there's been a lot of interest in this, and I am psyched. I'm psyched. So if you haven't heard, you can join me October 7th this fall. October, I know it seems like a long way away. America's Cowboy Trip, Cowboy Country with Colette Travel. So here's the deal. Well, to see the deal, just go on the pulseofanh.com. It's front and center, or our app, the Pulse of an H, the pulseofanh.com. America's Cowboy Country, right up top. Click it, read about it. We're going to start in Yellowstone, the national park. We're going to see the open range, the incredible free range and the buffaloes. We're going to go to the Badlands National Park, Mount Rushmore, Deadwood. We're going to see all the Western towns and all the folklore. We're going to go to Jackson Hole. It's a great week. Great accommodations, great travel, great restaurants, great food. But most importantly, I think of the local experience guides, because it's like when I was in Carlisle, Pennsylvania a number of years ago, when I had the high honor and one of the best weeks of my adult life, or more than a week, actually. I was out there for the National Security Seminar at the U.S. Army War College as a civilian. And when one of our field trips was to Gettysburg, if I remember right, maybe 20, 30 minutes from there. And we had Doug, I saw him on a national show the other night. He's a professor. He's a retired Marine fighter pilot. He's the Army historian for the War College. And I got lucky. In our executive bus, he was our guide for a day or so at Gettysburg. It was just amazing having his knowledge of every part of the battle, the field, and the stuff that you didn't know, like where the Minnesota regiment stood, looking out at insurmountable odds, and they had to provide cover for a few moments for the eventual force that got down to where Chamberlain was from Maine on the point. And you didn't know about the Minnesota regiments. I mean, just that's the stuff when we're going out west. The stuff about, hometown of Buffalo Bill or Wild Bill Hickok and all that fun stuff, Yellowstone, all the fun, and you look at all the popular shows with Kevin Costner now. He's doing now a new one, was it Yellowstone to Yosemite? Of course, the series, the Westerns. Western stuff has never been more popular. And it's funny, because of Yellowstone and some of the shows that are streaming. I was reading an ancillary article about real estate, and people are now moving and buying out west, places where you really do want to live in Montana. Yeah, people are loving it. I just don't. Good luck through the winter. It might not be bad as North Dakota, but it's pretty harsh. The point is, we're going in the fall when it's beautiful, so it won't be too bad. It won't be too cold, but just gorgeous. And you can come. Being a listener, just go to the pulseofanh.com, the cowboy trip. And people ask me why this trip? Well, obviously, why not? It's a bucket list for me because I've never been out there. I've been out to, ski out west, but I haven't been to, actually, I have not been to Jackson Hole. Pretty sure. No, I remember that. I got a buddy who does some special ops military training out in Jackson Hole, but no, seriously, never been to Yellowstone. Haven't been to Mount Rushmore, haven't been to the Badlands. I want to see all this stuff. And I can't, there's not a Western, when I'm streaming, you look at the genres, you can pick action, crime. I do love Chicago PD, but when you're looking for a show, I hit Western sometimes when I'm just want to escape and watch a good Western. I love Westerns. So Join me. It's a trip of a lifetime, I think. And I had a choice with Colette. They asked me, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go with listeners on your trip? I'll be honest. Don't yell at me. Don't start screaming. I had choices ranging from Iceland to Italy. I said a couple of those I think I might want to do with my smarter, prettier, better half and not a group. But I want to go out west. I'd love to go out west when they said the wild, the cowboy west. I go, tell me more about that. And they told me, I go, that's it. Bell went off. So go to thepulseofanh.com. Great value, the pricing. And if you want to call and ask questions of Colette, specific accommodations, it's traveling. I get it. You may have some questions. You can call 800 581 8942. 800 581 8942. 800 581 8942. And a special extra for those who are signing up and want to learn more. March 5th, coming up next month, March 5th, less than a month, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Bank of New Hampshire stage, Capitol Center for the Arts, right here in Concord. We're going to have a special night. We're going to you're going to be briefed in person, and some of the folks who are going to be our host are coming up to talk to you and answer questions. So if you want to be there, March 5th, 6 to 8 p.m., B&H stage. Yeah, 3 weeks. That's an evening for 2 hours. You can get all your questions answered. If you're on the fence thinking, hey, should I want to go? You're going to want to go. Trust me. Just sign up now and come March 5th. Learn more. J-Dog, what else do you have? Mm-hmm. No, he did one called, he did that one. He did another one too. Give me a minute, with Kevin Costner, Open Range. They were, they called them free grazers, but it was just like they were just running herds across, and it was a great Western with Kevin Costner. And by the way, Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood, that was a great scene at the end of the bar. Yeah. Yeah. And you can believe Eastwood and Gene, they're both in their 90s. Can you believe that? Unbelievable. Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think a little more in the westerns because he was just so good. Outlaw Josie Wales, he did so many. The good, the bad, the ugly. Yeah. He was just so good in the westerns, and it's hard. He was good as in Dirty Harry too, J-Dog. But the thing about Clint Eastwood, people forget, and I don't want to talk about politics, but the far left side, they don't like Clint Eastwood's a brilliant director and actor. And I will tell you, he really is. Like, and if you there's one movie, Gran Torino, and what he was saying in that movie, it had such a positive message, despite there was sort of open stuff that you in this woke, politically correct era, or thank goodness more recently, he would never say. But in the end of the movie and how he befriended his neighbors, speaking of migrants in that movie, he died for him in the movie. Yeah, he died for him. And so it's a great, but he's a smart dude. But I think overall, J Dog, I think of him as the Western. I give the tip of the hat. I know, but think of great movies like No Way Out. I just always liked Kevin Costner, but I really think that what put him onto the map was Dances with Wolves. And it's funny you say this. It's funny you go down this road, J Dog, because I think he's cool. I like him. I think a lot of people like him. But the whole Yellowstone, even though Sheridan, the director producer, sort of become a star of himself with all these spinoffs like Landmen with Billy Bob Thornton, cost what's that? Yeah, Tulsa King. Yep. People forget Dances with Wolves. Costner worked very closely with Native American descendants in the tribe, and he really got into the culture and the history, and that I think hooked him for what he eventually ended up becoming and doing and he's still doing it. I mean, he's got this new series he loves. I don't know where he lives, but he must live out there. I mean, it just seems like he lives on a ranch. Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And of course, one that is probably one for the ages. It was his baseball movies, Kevin Costner. Yeah, he was that Field of Dreams was a classic. Oh, yeah, you gotta tear up a little bit. Yeah. All right. Hey, we got a packed show for you. We'll come back to some of the other noise and stuff happening. We'll tell you a little more on the forecast for tonight into tomorrow. Some snow moving in, and we're at that point now. We're 12. And by the way, does it seem like Valentine's Day is what, Friday? Is that right? Is that what you're going to get me, a box of cookies? Being, I'm not your Valentine. It's not about you. Yeah, but ever since you graduated, you think it's all about you. You think there's a brick or a stone in front of the high school where you went? Well, there probably is. Yeah. Everyone does. Even the colleges with your name on the building you got to pay for. Hey, speaking of colleges, we're going to come back and talk more about bringing back the trades, the great growth of our community college system. We'll tell you more about that. Some state house stuff. 11 o'clock, more of my interview with Governor Kelly Ayotte live this morning, talking about a lot of things. And we have a packed show for you. We'll also have some fun, but our poll question available on X at the Pulse of an H on X. Are you concerned inflation is not coming down every day? Everyday consumer prices. Yes or no? I'm getting a little concerned. What are you? And yesterday, overwhelming support or to the question on do you think FEMA should be spending money on hotels to house migrants was like over 80% saying no. Yeah, I think only 11%. Yeah, saying yes. Yep. All right. Hey, Google. Hey, Alexa. Play the Pulse of NH. And again, we had former Governor Chris Sununu on the show, really not holding back, railing against U.S. Senator Jeanne Shaheen. She's become a pretty leading critic of shutting down or sort of suspending the USAID, the foreign aid group, as well as Elon Musk, and is looking at more government eliminating waste and exposing government fraud and waste and efficiency. And Sununu really tearing into that, but we'll have more on that as well. It is Wednesday. We made it this far. What is it? Something like over the hump day. Back in a moment.